This is Mr. Martin. This is pre-calc advanced notes for hyperbolas. We are talking about the We Do problem number 3. So for this one we want to sketch the hyperbola given by 9x squared minus 4y squared plus 8y minus 40 is equal to 0. And then we're going to find the asymptotes. So what we're going to have to do is complete the square and put this into standard form. Now, since there's only this one x term, we're only going to have to complete the square for my y terms. But we're going to have to be really careful when we do that because this minus outside the 4. So let's start there. So I'm going to have 9x squared, and then I'm going to factor that 4 out of the y. So I'm going to have negative 4 times y squared. Now when I factor the negative 4 out of this 8y, I'm left with negative 2y. Okay, because if I redistribute, I'll have negative 4 times y squared, which will give me negative 4y, and negative 4 times negative 2y, which will give me positive 8y. So you could always just double check if you redistribute it if you would get back to the original spot. Alright, and then since we're completing the square, we're going to have something over here. We'll figure that out in a second. And I'm going to move my 40 over to the other side. And now, normally we would add whatever we would added on the left side, but here we're subtracting. So we're subtracting 4 times whatever we put over here. So we're going to take half of negative 2, so that's negative 1 squared, and we would put negative 1 squared over there. So a couple of places to make some careless errors here. When you factor out this negative 4, make sure you take that into account with the y term, and then instead of adding it to the other side, we're going to subtract it since we're subtracting it from the left. Okay, so we were going to end up with 9x squared minus 4. This, since we completed the square there, that's a perfect square trinomial. So that's going to be y minus 1 squared. And this turns out to be 36. Be careful, because if you don't put these parentheses here, you're not going to get the right answer. So it's actually 4 minus 4 times 1. So 40 minus 4 times 1, or 36. And again, our standard form, it's got to equal 1, so we just divide by 36. I'll divide this by 36, and I'll divide this by 36. So this one will reduce to x squared over 4. This is going to reduce to y minus 1 squared over 9, and then it equals 1. So here's our standard form, and from our standard form we can get everything we need to get. So horizontal or vertical, we see that the x squared is first, so this is horizontal. And we need our center. So our center is hk, so h, this is x minus 0 squared if you want to think about it that way. So h is 0 and k is going to be 1. And we also need a and b. So I've got a is equal to 2, that's the square root of 4. And b is equal to 3, that's the square root of 9. And that should give us everything that we need to graph it. So center at 0, 1. And it's horizontal, so I'm going to go A to the left and to the right. So I'm going to go 2 to the right and 2 to the left. And B is 3, so I'm going to go the other direction 3. So 1, 2, 3 up to 4. And 1, 2, 3 down to negative 2. Once I have my vertices and I use B to get the other dimension of my central rectangle, I'm going to draw that in. So here's my central rectangle. And once I have the central rectangle, I can sketch in my asymptotes. Again, remember to make these dotted or dashed. They're not really part of the hyperbola, they just help us sketch it. Here's my other asymptote with the negative slope. Okay, and once I have this, that's all I need to draw in my hyperbola. We already determined it's horizontal, so it's going to open to the right. Let's try that again. open to the right. Make sure you go through your vertices and open to the left. Your vertices will always be on your central rectangle. And this red is at the actual hyperbola. Okay, now we've got to find our asymptote. So let's take a look at the slope. So starting at the center, here's my rise. And this is my value B. And this is my run. And this is my value A. So my slope is going to be rise over run, or B over A. So for my asymptotes, I've got y is equal to k, so that's 1, plus or minus my slope, which I decided was b over a, so that's 3 over 2, and then x minus h, so that's just x. Alright, and you really don't need to simplify this at all. You know, it's just another step to make some careless mistakes, so I would just leave it in this form. And if you have any questions or need to review this, feel free, and we'll see you next time.